What is going on, everybody? It is your resident senior developer advocate at TuxCare, Chris Demars. I hope everybody's doing good. I hope you have your water, your pop. We call it pop where I'm from. Coffee. I got this amazing South Africa mug that my partner got me while they were in South Africa on a missionary trip. Shout out to them. This is great. I love it. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having an amazing day, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, or the evening. If you tuned in last week, really appreciate it. I had a blast with Kevin. This week, we have a buddy of mine who is also my teammate, who is also my colleague, who is also someone I know in the community and have passed by multiple times at conferences, but actually never met until we both hired in at TuxCare. I want to bring him up to the stage. Everybody give a round of applause for Eric Hendricks.
Hey, Chris. Good to be hanging out with you.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, just another Wednesday, which in my book usually means live streams.
It's Wednesday? This is the most Wednesday it's ever been.
I only said that because I had to check in the top corner of my screen to make sure.
I do that all the time. I'm like, oh, what day is it today? What day is it?
Awesome. The day after yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. The day after yesterday, but not before tomorrow. Or before tomorrow. Yes, that too.
That's what day it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for taking the time out to join me. I want to plug a couple things before we get started. If you don't know what TuxCare is, definitely give us a look at TuxCare.com. We do a bunch of awesome, amazing things for Linux support and end-of-life systems, and TuxCareRadar, which is a vulnerability scanner. So give us a shout out. Check us out at TuxCare.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Salt and Burnham. And let me plug a couple other things here. Follow Eric. Where did I put this? There we go. Follow Eric everywhere at the IT Guy Eric, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the things. And then I also want to plug our Twitter. If you can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/TuxCare_. Give us a follow. Eric, give us a little intro. Tell us who you are, what you do, what you're all about. I know who you are, but our viewers may or may not know who the IT guy Eric is. Eric, the IT guy.
Yeah, so I've been in technology since I was old enough to figure out how to change the desktop background on my dad's Apple II, I think it was, way back in the day. To tell you how long I've been around technology, we were thrilled when my dad upgraded the family computer from 1 mega RAM to 2. That's not gigs, that's not terabytes, that's 1 megabyte of RAM to 2. And we thought, what could we possibly need? How much more could we possibly need? And now you can't run a browser without 10 gigs of RAM. So there's that. So I grew up super nerdy, nervous. I watched Star Trek all the time, which back in the day wasn't something you were proud of. It was something you hid in a corner. But I grew up around technology and science fiction, and I loved the idea of technology making things better. That's I think why I've gotten into infrastructure and automation and a lot of the things that I do. And so that very naturally led to me going to DeVry and graduating and working my way up the stack. I served my time doing help desk tickets. I refused to work on anybody's printer, so don't ask. But I did the help desk, I did systems administration, and in the corner of the data center, there was always this stack of servers that no one else really knew what it did or wanted to touch. But all I knew is the only way to interact with it was what felt like interacting with the Matrix, because of course, black background, green text. So it always felt like the Matrix. And so I was like, I want to work on that. And so I got introduced to the world of Ubuntu and Fedora and RHEL and that just kind of that was kind of my thing. So I spent probably 10 years my IT career as a Linux focused systems administrator, and then I kind of came to the dark side and moved to the product side. So I kind of tried my luck in sales, and that just really wasn't my thing. I hated pushing people to spend money that I wouldn't myself feel okay to spend. That sounds horrible, but I didn't like the money aspect. I was a technologist, a hobbyist, a home labber, for what, almost 15 years now. And so that led me into the world of marketing. Some folks may recognize me from the work that I did at my previous company. I was 5.5 years at Red Hat. I've been in the open source community as well. Started the Sudo show years ago, and been on other community podcasts like Linux Unplugged and the Ask Noah show. So if you're in the audience and you know what those are, give me a shout out. Would love to hear from you. Most recently, podcasting my own show called the IT Guy Show. Just kind of me hanging out, kind of like this, just hanging out, talking with friends, people I know in the industry, reminiscing about the good old days when we didn't have to worry about wireless drivers. And just different things like that. So that's a lot about me. I've like Damar said, I've been around the conference space as well, DevOps days and Linux fests, and we track things back about 5 years or so and realized that we've been to several of the same conferences, never once had an interaction. So this was fun. Damar showed up at TuxCare, and then I showed up a week later, and here we are. So.
Yeah, and we know a lot of the same people in the community too, which is
for sure
about it. And you've heard some stories about me, but we're not going to talk about those.
I don't know.
Good stories.
If we could get some upvotes like from the audience, I might tell a few.
Oof, I don't know. They're all good though. Very, very nice. I'm an amazing. I'll be not humble for a minute. I'm a pretty cool cat to hang out with. So yeah.
I'd like to think people say the same about me. So I'm just going to continue on in that belief. And anyone that disagrees, well, that's just too bad.
Yeah. No, it's funny that you bring up the conference thing, because I was talking to Jeremy, and I think he might want me to come down and speak at DevOps Days KC, which I'm totally cool with. And I know our company definitely supports the community building. So that's awesome. I haven't spoken at DevOps Days in a few years. I think I only ever spoke at one DevOps Days, and it was DevOps Days Rockies in Denver. And it was kind of cool because I lived in Denver for a year, and then I've been home since 2020 here in Michigan, and I flew out to speak there, and it was pretty cool because I got to go back and see the old neighborhood and hang out and kick it with people. So that was fun. I had a good time speaking at that event.
DevSecOps Days, was it?
Nope. It was just DevOps Days Rockies.
Gotcha. Because I went to DevSecOps Days. It may actually have been a sub conference, like conference within a conference. But I gave one of my biggest talks there, over 300 people, talking about busting open source security myths. Gosh, that was 2019. My daughter was like 1 and my biggest fan in the audience.
That's awesome.
It's hard to talk about open source and security when in the back of the room you hear dada.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. That was one of the, I think that was probably the second event where I was running in open spaces. I don't know if every DevOps Days does it. Yeah, but DevOps Days Rockies did it. And if you want to do an open spaces, you just, put it up on the board. And I did an open spaces. I think I did it 2 days in a row, because I think the event might have been 2 days for this one specifically. And I did the open spaces around stuff that had nothing to do with technology. Because in my mind, all we're doing, we're sitting in a single track event, or even if you do these at multi-track events, all you're doing is talking about tech all day long. And yes, that's awesome, that's great, but let's switch it up a little bit. Let's change gears. So I like to run my open spaces around cryptids, ghosts, and UFOs. Like, let's have a conversation about that. And like, it would just bring people in, and I'd have books with me in my backpack, and I'd pass books around about like books like this, like real aliens, space beings, and creatures from other worlds. And it's cool to get people to like open up about things they've seen or growing up in a haunted house, and they thought they saw Bigfoot one time. Like, it's cool to do that. So I tend to do that at these conferences. But
so I have a gift for you. We're housewarming our new Twitch channel, and so I brought a gift, and you can have this for free. If you ever started like an AM radio show, I came up with your DJ name this morning.
What is
Spooky Damars.
I like it. I dig it.
You can keep that.
I'm going to have to write that one down. I just don't have a pen on
me. Usually I do, but I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where my pen is, but that's all right. Let's get kicked off. So you mentioned one thing I do want to cover real quick. You said RHEL. I think I know what RHEL is, just because working in the Linux space now, and being an Ubuntu fan and never really working in the RHEL space. RHEL, for all of our viewers, if you're not familiar, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, correct?
Got it.
Cool. Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So if you ever hear anybody talk about RHEL and it's something new to you and you've been in the Ubuntu space, RHEL stands for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Well, with that being said, Eric, what is this radar thing? I keep hearing about it. I think I made a little video about it to help out with the promotion of radar. But can you give us a little rundown of what radar is, and then we'll jump right in. You can share your screen, do a walkthrough, show how to actually use it for vulnerability scanning, et cetera, et cetera. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Sweet. So yeah, what is radar all about?
Sure. So to kind of dovetail off the clarification around Red Hat Enterprise Linux, there's and please don't hate. There's there's two major veins, at least in the enterprise space. Anything I'm talking about is enterprise. I understand, the hobbyist community, the open source community. There's so many more, but as a recovering systems administrator, there's two major veins of distributions that the enterprise focuses on. Those are Debian, and that's where your Ubuntu comes from. So Debian and Ubuntu are kind of one side of the same house. On the other side, you have this enterprise Linux space. And there's a lot of players in this space, and we've seen a lot of changes over the past 4 years in this space. So you see things like Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which used to be Red Hat Linux. You see CentOS, you see CentOS Stream, CentOS Linux. You've got a bunch of downstream or RHEL compatible distributions like Alma Linux, like Rocky Linux. And I say that to kind of paint the picture. There's a lot of distributions out there. There's a lot of different there's a lot of different choices that you can make, and there's trade-offs with each. And we could have a whole other stream on which distribution do I pick. But to tie that into your conversation about radar is the Linux. I'm going to butcher this name, but the Linux environment. I don't think environment's the right word, but it's on our website. But basically the Linux Enterprise Survey landscape is in there somewhere. Linux Landscape Environment Survey, something like that. One of the surveys that TuxCare sponsored over the last year basically pointed out that most systems administrators and sysadmins and security admins are kind of my people. And so one of the things that they deal with is not only is there a mixed environment from Windows and Linux perspective. Most companies aren't exclusively one or the other. There's a little bit of both. But on top of all that, you've got just on the Linux side of the house, you have multiple distributions. I think 2.3 distributions was kind of the average in any enterprise. So if you've got 1,000 systems, you're going to have some that are probably enterprise Linux focused, and you have some that are probably Debian focused, most likely Ubuntu. And those may or may not be backed up by a vendor, whether that's TuxCare or Red Hat or Canonical or Oracle, any of these companies that are out there. The problem with that is I came up with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. When I was a sysadmin, that was a lot of what I worked on before I ever even thought about working at Red Hat. So what you run into is, great, Red Hat has amazing tools like Satellite and now Ansible automation platform, but then Canonical has some tools too, and they do something very well. They support their distribution very, very well. Red Hat Satellite geared towards Red Hat Enterprise Linux. That's great. In an ideal world, I could have one vendor that would supply all of my needs, but vendors shift. Company politics change. So you might have the CIO who's all in on Enterprise Linux, and then the next CIO all in on Debian base. And so what you end up with is multi-generational problems of this sysadmin had these preferences and handed down these tools. And so you may be a sysadmin who's working at a job, or a security administrator who's working at a job that 3 or 4 generations of employees have come and gone, bringing their own personalities, bringing their own preferences into the enterprise. The problem with that is now you've got tool sprawl. Now you've got 2.3 different distributions. I'm not sure what the 0.3 would be, but but you might have CentOS mixed with RHEL, mixed with Alma Linux, mixed with Canonical. You might have 2 to 4 different distributions. How do you manage all of that? And so let's bring into the security conversation as well. Each of those distributions runs a slightly different kernel, has different attack vectors that different organizations or individuals might try and target, different CVEs that they're prone to. So you've got multiple different vectors coming in over multiple different distributions with different update cycles. It's basically what I'm trying to paint is the nightmare that I lived every day as a systems administrator. How do I protect all of these systems with all of these different vectors and things that are only accelerating? I mean, we have open source attacks now where nefarious actors are trying to break into the software supply chain and basically inject vulnerabilities at the open source level, or basically just mistyping the name of a package and publishing that out. Like NPM got hit last summer, I think, pretty hard with open source vulnerabilities where they just misspelled the name of a package that is well used and well vetted.
Yep.
But just because they transposed a couple of letters, they can
Yep.
inject security into the supply chain. So how do you maintain security in all that space? That's where TuxCareRadar comes in. And feel free to stop me at any point. I get on my soapbox. I get pretty
No, no,
passionate talking
you're
about
good.
Linux open source and security. So it's
You're
a
good.
trifecta of beauty that we get to talk about today.
No,
So
you're good.
that's where. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I just gave a talk at a meetup here in Michigan last week, and it's on SBOMs for front end devs, and I talked
Yeah.
specifically about that. I talk about how NPM and package management, and what you're talking about specifically is called typo squatting, where
Yeah.
an attacker will spell something wrong, and then we just think by muscle memory. The example I give is npm I express.
Mhm.
Like, I know what express is. I know if I need to install it. I've done it for years and years and years. I'm just by muscle memory. I'm just going to type npm I express in my terminal, but I might spell it npm I expres, right, or rr on accident, whatever.
Mhm.
But that specifically could be a malicious package. And am I going to always go into my package JSON and make sure it was installed? I'm just going to look at my terminal, and my terminal is going to tell me it was successfully installed. I don't need to go in
Mhm.
my package JSON, but in your package JSON file, that's where you're actually going to see that. And yeah, so for any of our listeners out there, that's called typo squatting. It happens all the time.
I should have known there was a name for it, but yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, that's the problem that we all face. And so what happens, even if it's not a nefarious package, how do I ensure that the kernel, that the glibc, that the OpenSSL packages that I'm running are in fact secure? And so let's dive in another layer deeper. Is you might have a tool like rebootless patching. Some folks call it live kernel patching, where you basically have a kernel that's running a moderately modern version of the kernel, but there's vulnerabilities in that kernel, and you use a tool like Kpatch, or maybe like TuxCare's own. Uh, Gosh, I blanked. Kernel Care. Jeez, it's been a morning already, and it's only 10. So you may use Kpatch or Ksplice, or I forget what Canonical's version is off the top of my head, or you may use TuxCare's own Kernel Care Enterprise. And what that does, and that's a completely different show for a different day, but high level, Kernel Care, what it does is it applies patches directly to the kernel in memory. Let that sink in for a second. Yes, that's terrifying to the uninitiated. I was I was opposed to the idea because if it's not at the RPM level, it doesn't exist, but it does. I don't want to have to take down a production system live during the day, but I also don't want to leave myself vulnerable to a situation where there is a vulnerability live in the wild. There's actually companies that have come out and said, we have been impacted by this. This is not fake news. This is a real thing that's impacting real systems. So I might use a tool like Kernel Care to patch my system live. That doesn't mean that I don't patch using DNF or apt, but it gives you an ability to patch a system live without having to reboot, without having to take a system down, particularly in the middle of the day. So you may be using something like rebootless patching or live patching. Both apply to the same type of tool. So what happens is a lot of times with with a lot of these vulnerability detection systems is that you end up in a situation where you may have patched something using in-memory patches like rebootless patching, but because the RPM may not have been updated because it's not that server's weak in the patch cycle, things like that, you may run into false positives, and that's one of the biggest problems that Radar tries to solve. Is how do I get just the information I need in a format that is easy to digest, easy to share, and how do I know what I'm actually still vulnerable with?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have a screen ready? We can walk through and you can show us.
I do. I brought some toys.
Cool. Let me add you to the stage.
So what we are looking at is radar.tuxcare.com, and you can actually go out to tuxcare.com/tuxcare-radar, URL down below, and sign up for a free trial. So please go play along. Anyone that knows my work knows that I don't just come and talk about things. I have to show and tell. In fact, radar.tuxcare.com is our US-based, global-based repository. In case you might be in the EU. I'm showing too much, but there's also an eu.radar.tuxcare.com. So if you're GDPR required, you can jump there as well. We'll talk about my home lab here in a second, but I just kind of wanted to give a demonstration of what I'm talking about, just kind of a guided tour, if you will. So what we're looking at is the dashboard for shared account we have here at TuxCare. As you can tell, there's nothing particularly production here, but there's a number of systems, and some of them are running Red Hat. You see Alma, Oracle, Ubuntu. So that kind of ties back to sort of the anecdote that I shared early on, was that how do I manage these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different distributions running different versions? You've got everything from 9.4, which is relatively new, 2404, fairly new, and then wait a minute, I've got Oracle and CentOS 7.9. How do I manage this mismatch of versions, this mismatch of distributions? Radar doesn't care. Radar pulls all of that in, and I'll walk you through an install here in a second, but it gives you this nice, simple dashboard. You'll notice that there's not a lot of flair, there's not a lot of fluff. It just tells me what I need to know, and it color codes things. It just makes things super simple. So I mean, if we look at this RHEL 9.4, this Red Hat 9.4 system, you can see that it's been around for 182 days, inspected 8 hours ago. We can very quickly see what the system risk score is, what the kernel version is. And so one of the first things, I'm a sysadmin at heart, but I'm brother in arms with my security folks. Notice here that we've got an IP address. The nice thing is we're not doing it with this system, but the nice thing is you can obfuscate host names, IP addresses, things like that, so that you're not sharing what you may feel is critical information with Radar. We all know the risks and the trade-offs with the SaaS solution. So you can obfuscate that information. Obviously, we're not doing that here because ultimately, what is that going to tell you? An IP address doesn't mean anything out of context. But you can see that there are a number of vulnerabilities. Whoever the sysadmin is, I need to have a talk with them, because 1,200 vulnerabilities. But what does that actually mean? Just because a vulnerability may be present on a system doesn't mean that it's exploitable. Those are the two things that you kind of have to look at. It's a kind of a reverse, kind of an upside down funnel cake of, just because a vulnerability exists, it may be in a system package that maybe that system service isn't running. Try to think of an example off the top of my head. Never works out well, but let's say you've got kdump installed. You want to get dumps of the kernel when it crashes, or on a regular basis, to see what's actually running. You may not actually be running kdump, so the vulnerability may exist on your server, but it may not be exploitable because that systemd service isn't running. So that's vulnerabilities, and then you drill down and you look at what's actually exploitable. So like for instance, without a known exploit is 1,260 one of those 1,282 vulnerabilities don't have a known exploit. It means we recognize there's a problem here. Somebody could probably pull this off, but it's not very easy to do. But then this in the wild exploit, that is the most critical thing that you want to look at in radar reports, especially this combination of, is it being exploited in the wild, which means someone has actually come to the CVE itself and said, my systems have been impacted by this vulnerability. There are people, threat actors, state actors, individuals, whatever, that are actually using this vulnerability for malicious purposes. So in the wild is sort of the one path you need to take. The other is critical and high are probably the most important. You got critical, high, moderate, and low. So your threat level, the risk factor kind of drops based on those. So that is kind of at a high level what we're looking at here. So one of the anecdotes I like to tell when I'm talking to my security folks is I don't know how many times when I was a systems administrator being stuck in rush hour traffic. I'm from Kansas City, so we're talking 435 heading west, past downtown, heading towards like Overland Park, that area. And the reason why that's so vivid is because it happened so many times. I wish it hadn't, but it did. So much of my life as a systems administrator, so many days were ruined, so many well-intentioned plans were just burned to the ground because I'd get a call. It's my manager. Pick up. I always know what the call's about. Hey, Eric. Yeah. So the CIO just called, and he said that there's a vulnerability that he saw in the news. Of course, CIOs and their news articles. He wants to know if we're vulnerable. Said, well, I'm 15 minutes out. There's a 3-car pileup, whatever. I'm trying to get into the office. And okay, can you tell me what's going on? Oh, it's some kind of Windows server vulnerability. Oh, no, we're good. Never mind. We're the Linux team. Just tell them to talk to the Windows guys.
Oh, that's funny.
Not a week later though. Hey, Eric, how you doing? CIO just called. Said he was out for a run and was listening to the radio, and this vulnerability hit the news. Are we vulnerable? Oh, great. Can you tell me
Every time you
about
say
it?
that, I think of Office Space. Like, hey,
Well-
how you doing?
Exactly. You picked up on it. I love it.
What's new?
Yeah, we're gonna need you to come in. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Oh yeah, I caught it real quick. I'm like, well, I know where he's going with that.
So I finally get into the office, and my day is shot because now here's the thing. Last week we were lucky because the Linux guys didn't have to deal with the Windows vulnerability. This week, not so lucky. It's a it's a Linux vulnerability, and this is a big deal. It's one of those named vulnerabilities, so it's got a goofy name. Maybe it's even got a mascot. Like Baron Samedi was one that hit a few years ago. But so you get into the office, and you know that you cancel all your meetings because any of my security folks, any of my sysadmins know what I'm about to unfold for you. But if you're newer, here's how things used to be done in the old days. I would have to sit down. I would have to pull up the CVE, the identifier, and look at it and scan it and just say, okay, so it's hitting RHEL or Oracle or CentOS Linux, 7.7.8, 7.9. Okay, so that kernel version applies. Uh-oh. That's going to impact our systems. So now I have to pull up my spreadsheet. Wasn't anything else. It was a spreadsheet. Don't judge. Of Linux systems, the distribution that they're running, the version that they're running, major and minor, and what kernel version that they're using. Okay, which of these systems are vulnerable? So I get to go through and compile a list of these systems could be vulnerable. Now I've got to determine, are they exploitable? So then that usually meant I had to go out to the CVE website, and usually there was a script or a command or some kind of condition that you can run that says, are you vulnerable? And basically you run the script and it'll come back 0 or 1. 0, you get to go back to your day. 1, good luck. So you had to basically do this, and usually that required dumping output from release files, from DNF package files. It was Yum back in the day, but and basically pulling all this information together because you had to establish a report and you had to say, hey, these systems are vulnerable, these systems are exploitable, these are the package sets, this is the requirements for fixing this issue. And then you're a developer, Chris. You know what this feels like. I had to then go to the development team and say, hey, we've got this really big vulnerability we kind of need to fix like right now. Yes, I get it. You've got a big release. You're already behind, over budget. I get it. But this is vulnerability. This is the kind of job-ending, company-destroying problem that we all hear about. I need to take dev down for an hour. Yes,
There we go.
I understand. I get it. Okay, dude, look, it's supposed to be dev. It's supposed to be destroyable. It's supposed to be, accessible. Yes, I understand. You've got this whole project. Trust me, I get it. But we're talking like, do you want to lose your job over this? Do you want the company to go bankrupt over this? No? Okay, thanks. When can I have it? No, 3 days from now isn't going to work. Throw a message in chat if you've had this conversation on either side of the table, because I've had it far too many times. So you finally convince the development team that this is important, that you're not just, trying to throw in patches just to make their lives more difficult. I heard that one too. But you get to this point where it's just like, okay, finally, I can patch dev. I've got an hour, go in, run the patch, reboot the environment, and then you realize that, okay, cool, we're good. I run the scripts, I install these packages, reboot the server, we're gold. This was back in the day before kernel rebootless patching, things like that. Nowadays, life would be so much easier. And so you get through that, and so now you've got a solution for dev, and you take these multi-tab spreadsheets with hundreds of columns, with thousands of rows, and you send it on up the chain. It's got to go through change management. You've got to get a schedule. And so now guess what? Not only has your morning been shot compiling all these Excel spreadsheets, which, funny enough, I have compiled vulnerability report Excel spreadsheets that have crashed Windows before. Most sysadmins usually had a Windows laptop. It was usually the crappiest thing because you weren't a developer, so you got whatever whatever the IT team had available. And I've literally had Windows crash because Excel got too big. That's how ridiculous of a problem that Radar is trying to solve. And so now you realize that not only is your day shot, but your night is shot too, because the only outage window that you could schedule was that night at 1 a.m. You have to wait for every conceivable person to log out of the environment, every customer to be asleep, before you can go in and apply the fix. Well, we'll talk about kernel care and rebootless patching another day, but the nice thing is, I feel a little tension release there. I feel a little bit better getting that off my chest. I still have some battle scars, clearly.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not alone. And that's where Radar comes in. And so all of that, I painted such a drastic picture because I can come in here, I can pull up a system, I can see that there's vulnerabilities, I can see that there's 6 that are exploitable in the wild, I can see that there's a whole lot more that need to be addressed, critical and high. And instead of spending all that time, I can just come over here in the far right and click reports and generate. And then once that report is generated, I can download it. And how pretty is this? This is not an Excel spreadsheet. This is an HTML file. And it basically gives me a readout on what's fixable, what's vulnerable. I can just, instead of Excel spreadsheets, I can take this doc and I can just download it and email it to my manager and to change control and just the security team if those responsibilities are split out. I cannot overstate the fact that Radar is incredibly simple and it's designed to make sysadmin and security admins' lives easier. I said a lot of words there, Demars. Save me from myself.
No, you're good. There's so many vulnerabilities, and I think the generated report is for one, that's awesome that we do provide a generated report like that, but two, that it's in markup. right? It's not
Hmm.
just like a PDF or anything like that. Like it's there to be shared, and I'm assuming that you can also download that, right? That report.
Hmm.
Did
Yep.
you already say that? I might have missed
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you just tell it to generate. It'll run. It'll collect all the information, and then when it's done, you'll get this nice little download button.
yeah, there's the download button. I'm not even paying attention. I'm just looking at all the colors and the vulnerabilities.
Right. Although it does kind of make me laugh that purple is the highest and not red. Um,
Hmm.
but uh, but yeah, I mean, critical, high, moderate, low. It's color coded. It's very easy to just, especially if you're someone who's more C-suite level, to be able to see that and go, look, we wouldn't have. Well, ideally, we wouldn't have orange, red, or purple. But
Hmm.
at a minimum, we shouldn't have any purple. At minimum, we probably shouldn't have but a sliver of red.
Yeah,
And look at our environment. I mean, I mean, just like that, it took less than a minute just while we were talking to generate a full report, and we can download it and email it just like that. It's super super simple. I'm beyond thrilled with this.
that is pretty awesome. So this radar, does this only work for Linux systems, or
Yes.
can you use this? Okay, because I was going to ask, my follow-up was, can you use it for languages and frameworks and libraries, whether that's
Mhm.
back end like Python or .NET, or front end Angular, AngularJS, Next.js, etc.
Um, I mean, it does kernel, it does NSS, some of the different library files, and I think that's functionality that's being added. This is an actively developed tool. I mean, just in the 3 or so months that I've been with TuxCare, we've added a lot of like AI functionality, like a chat feature, which I'll show here in a minute, but also things like MCP integration. So if you're starting to look at automating beyond just like a playbook, and you want something that you can talk to. Um, so high level, MCP is basically an ability for a chat based AI agent to do things. Think about it like APIs for the AI age. So you can basically talk to a Claude or a few of the others and say, "Hey, can you go out and pull all of my systems and let me know what some of the biggest vulnerabilities are." Um, and then not only that, MCP isn't just a read-only tool. MCP will actually allow you to extend that a step further and go, can you go out and patch all my dev systems and then run another report and give me a 2 sentence summary of what the delta is. We ran patches, we ran a report before, we ran patches, we ran a report after, to let me know what the delta is, so I know what my progress looks like. Um, all that to say that radar is being heavily developed. I have meetings every Friday talking about what new features are coming, and we're working on getting videos out about that kind of thing. Um, so we've got a few out on our YouTube channel, some blogs out that I've written on our webpage. You can find all those at tuxcare.com. This tool is so powerful in its simplicity. I can't tell you how many tools that I've used over the years for security vulnerability management that are just so in depth, so involved that you feel like you have to go and take a graduate level course
Hmm.
just to understand the simple question of, am I vulnerable?
Yeah. Wow. No, I like this tool a lot. I've actually never seen the behind the scenes of this, and I mean, it looks simple. It looks very intuitive. Um, I'm not running any Linux systems, of course, so I mean, in the real world, I wouldn't need to use it. But I mean, showing
Mhm.
demos of this at conferences or meetups, I think is would be extremely valuable. Um, yeah, yeah. No, I dig this a lot.
So you say that, Chris. I could walk you through very quickly how to install Radar, because you would think
Let's
a
do it.
tool like this would have a very very heavy backend.
Yeah,
Really doesn't.
yeah. Let's do a fresh install. Walk us through how to install Radar on your machine.
Yeah, yeah. Let me switch inputs here.
Thank you if you're joining us from all over. We are streaming to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. We really, really appreciate everybody. This is the second stream for us here at TuxCare. We're going to keep doing this weekly. While Eric is doing that, we're working on some more guests, some solo events. That was my dryer. If you heard that go off, I was washing clothes. But we really, really do appreciate everybody that's tuned in, whether you're in the comments or you're just checking out and viewing it from the sidelines. Much appreciated.
So you may not have Linux systems running in your home lab, but I have probably close to
100
a
of them.
dozen virtual machines. I'll probably get to 100 at some point, just because of the
Yeah.
number of distributions and versions that Radar and kernel care support. I'll probably get there, but right now I've got 2 that I can show off today.
Cool. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
All right, so what I'm running is Alma Linux 9.6. First step is we need to enable the TuxCareRadar repositories. So it's pretty easy. You just you can go to our website, get the docs. The docs are super simple. And so what you're looking at here is I've basically gone in. I copy and pasted this. Live demos.
Yeah.
So
I
basically,
know all about
copy and
'em.
pasted oh gosh, where did it go? So basically, pulled down the GPG keys, set up the base URL. Basically, what we're defining here is the TuxCareRadar repo file. So
Could you bump your font size up a little bit, Eric?
Sure. There we go. How about that?
A little bit more.
Better?
It didn't change much, but maybe, I don't know, if you're running Tmux, you might not be able to.
Should be okay there.
That one went up a little bit. That should be okay. Yeah.
Sometimes it's weird having to change window size, that kind of thing. The joys of live streaming, folks.
Yep.
All right, so let me move us forward here. So we've got our TuxCareRadar repository enabled, and then so I'm going to do just a sudo dnf install TuxCare-radar. Super simple. Sysadmins do this 1,000 times a day. So we're going to install the package. As you can see, it's self-contained. It's 3 megs. There's no dependencies. Very lightweight. So let me clear my screen here and bring it up to the top. So I'm going to inject my API key into a configuration file. So very simple here. This is a demo key. Don't try and use it. But then there's just a very simple config file. I'll show you that here in a second. And so with our API key and our install, that's it. We're ready to run. And so I went ahead and copy and pasted too many commands, but that's what you get when you copy and paste commands out of your text file. So check this out. Radar doesn't run as an agent in the background. It's not always running. It doesn't require a whole bunch of ports or permissions. All it does is we're using the nobody user here. Yeah, nobody is somebody in the Linux world. So there may be something deeply psychological there. But all we're doing is we're calling our radar file, our radar configuration file, running the TuxCareRadar command. That's all we're doing. We're just calling basically a utility that runs. And when you install the DNF or the RPM package, what it does is it schedules a cron job that will run by default every 4 hours to make sure that you have a fresh scan in the last. It runs every 4 hours to make sure you have a fresh scan that's run in the past 23 hours. So it checks 4 times a day to make sure that you have a scan that's at least, or that's no more than 24 hours old. That's all it does. And it doesn't require some weird port. It's just HTTPS between the client and the backend SaaS service, so radar.tuxcare.com or eu.radar.tuxcare.com. And that's it. Or if you're in a space that doesn't provide internet access to its endpoints, you can actually use ePortal, which is another tool that we can talk about another day for TuxCare systems. So you can actually use ePortal as a proxy for radar information. So I told you I would show you the TuxCareRadar configuration file.
Ooh,
so
gotta love YAML.
Yeah, it's YAML. It's simple. It's beautiful. So here, my home lab's actually tied into the EU instance. There's a log file, there's a state file, time between runs, enabled. That's it. Although I just showed you
Wow.
my real API key, so remind me after the show to go request a new one. But
I
that's
would
it.
I would request it right now, but hey, that's just me.
So all we got to do is just, we're running a single command and it's running cron. Um, and so now we got to do the little screen share shuffle here. But I mean, it's super, super lightweight. It's
Yeah.
not an agent that runs all the time. It makes life
Yeah.
so much easier.
So does that now spin up the UI that you had previously, or do you have to do
So
a
that's not the
configuration on the
UI.
UI side? Okay.
So the UI is actually a software as a service. It's something that TuxCare hosts and manages.
Gotcha.
So all you, the end user, are responsible for is the just the client, basically installing that script that runs every few hours in cron. So if you want to share my browser tab
Yeah,
here,
there
I can
we go.
actually show you. That's Alma Linux 8. So if you look, we were working on Alma Linux 9.6.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
So
so
then
last,
that config into the terminal automatically just ties back into this through the configuration and
yep,
just links into this UI. You don't have an actual UI that's on your side. This is all hosted through us.
right. Yeah, so the
Cool.
only
That's
thing you're
awesome.
responsible for is just installing that client script. Um,
Nice.
so since I'm running 9.6 and that's fairly current, um, Alma Linux, my IT guy test Alma Linux 9 virtual machine here. That's kind of the naming convention. Doesn't have all of its doesn't have much, but um, fun of doing things on air, folks. Let me run another.
While you're doing that, I'm going to step away for a hot second.
Sure. I'll run for those of you that can't see my screen, what I did was I just jumped into Alma 8, one of my other machines here that hasn't had any patches recently, and I'm using the nobody user to run a quick scan. So that scan completed. It took about 12 seconds. Refresh this tab. There we go. Gotta love it when things break. Okay, so at least we have a couple. I'll jump back to Alma 9. Sorry to jump back and forth, but if you've ever done a live demo, you know that something always goes wrong. So there we go. Not what I wanted to show. For some reason, maybe I ran the script against the wrong system and patched my home lab overnight. Gotta love it when you need some vulnerabilities present, but I can at least show you here with, we'll use libxml2. There's a couple of critical vulnerabilities here. There's a link to visit TuxCare. There's a version information, and I can view details. And what that'll do is it'll actually send me out to NIST, to one of the international CVE databases, and that will give me all the general information. It'll let me know some of the errata. It'll let me know some of the weakness enumeration information, just a lot of general information. And this is contributed to by a bunch of different companies, whether they're security researchers, whether they're vendors, like this one's specific to Red Hat. So basically, this is Alma Linux 9.6, the system we just installed Radar on. It came up with a couple of critical vulnerabilities. So I kind of showed you all the other stuff, but what I didn't show you is sort of the built-in security consultant almost that that comes built in. No extra fees, no extra anything. So what I can do is I showed you the reports, but there's actually a chat function. And what I can do is I can ask it just general plain language questions. So like, what's the most urgent vulnerability on the system? And so it'll actually let me know, like the libxml vulnerability we just looked at, 794. So it'll mention that. And so what's great is I can then, instead of going out to a different website, if I just wanted to have a conversation about it, I can do CVE 2025 49796, and I can just say, hey, give me details. And so it'll think for a minute, and then it'll basically take any of that information from the NIST site that we just looked at and give it to me in plain English. Because I don't know about you, but some of the deeper technical stuff, I don't want to have to basically do a search to understand what that is. And so what the built-in AI tool will do is it'll just in plain language, couple of sentences, some key bullet points, some links. That's one thing I love about tools like this is when they have links to additional information. If I need to know, I can click some of these links and find out. Now, if the developers of Radar watch this, I do have a feature request. Because one of the beauties of AI is the ability to have plain conversations here. As you can see, this is not the vulnerability I was looking for, but we roll with the punches. That's what you do live. 796. Okay, so one of the feature requests I have is this is really important. First off is dark mode. I would prefer dark mode, and second of all, I can actually ask the AI chat for how do I fix this vulnerability. I was having some fun preparing for this, and I wanted to have a response in the voice of a pirate. Sadly, R-matey, I can't be speaking like a pirate. So that although a lot of this is in, I would agree. I would disagree. I would say this is very piratey, right? So basically, you should upgrade the effective package libxml2 to the latest version where the fix will be available. I actually had a kernel vulnerability planned for today, so I'm not sure why my home lab decided to patch itself. Not sure what Ansible or built-in automation that did that, but you basically get an idea of. I can ask the AI chat high-level things at the organizational level. I can ask it system-specific things, and I can even get down to CVE level. And this is pulling in information from like NIST and from Red Hat CVE Tracker and other sources as well. So I mean, there's just so much in here, and it just gets better every single release. Every few weeks there's changes on the back end. Every so often there's not really much to change on the client side, which is beautiful. So a lot of the changes are done on the SaaS side, on the developer side. So there's just it's such a cool tool. I cannot oversell this.
That's awesome. That's great. No, I love it. It looks awesome. I like the configuration. I love that it ties into the UI that we provide, just so you can kind of maintain all your stuff, right? You can check out your vulnerabilities and see how your system's doing. I think that's awesome.
And to be honest, it
keep
doesn't
going, sorry.
take all that. No, you're fine. To be honest, it doesn't take all that long to learn. I mean, I may have 3-4 hours playing with
Mhm.
Radar in my home lab to get to this point to feel like I can go have a conversation about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Radar. I mean, it's just that easy to get up and running.
sweet. No, I dig it. That is awesome. Well, Eric, we are going to wrap it up here. I appreciate all the time. Thank you so much. I know you're an hour behind me, but good thing we didn't do this super, super early in the morning. But
Yeah, I much appreciated. The time slot worked great. But
yeah,
yeah,
if any,
I love technology. I love talking to people. I love showing things off like this. So I'm happy to jump back on anytime.
cool, awesome. Well, we will probably do some more stuff here in the future. If you're not giving us a follow, make sure you give us a follow. If you're on Twitch, give us a follow on LinkedIn and Twitter and all the things. Check us out at TuxCare.com. Make sure that you follow Eric everywhere at, where is it? Eric the IT guy.
Yep,
We got
IT
you
Guy
right
Eric.
here.
You can
IT guy
grab all my
Eric.
links at itguyeric.com or just follow TuxCare. I'm fairly active posting blogs and videos, and I can guarantee there's just more to come.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you so much. Everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Catch us next week for a new episode, and we are going to end this. Later.
Thanks, y'all.